Did you want me to?
Yikes.
All right, friends. Hi. Welcome to MVP Office Hours. Today is June 6th, believe it or not. Hi. I'm so glad to see you. Um, wow, we're gonna just like jam through this really fast. Registration is the bit.ly, you're aware of that. Recordings can be found on YouTube at MVPOHUS, which seems like Ohio, but it's office hours. We generally meet on the first and third Fridays of every month. You can find us both on LinkedIn, and the links are there ahead of you. MVP Office Hours does exist on Twitter and an email, but we don't recommend those two venues. Please post in the community. There are some upcoming community events. I think right now London's Calling is happening, or maybe I guess it's probably like 7 o'clock there. Maybe they're having a happy hour. But Montreal Dreamin' is currently also happening.
Yep.
And Connections is next week. I'm super excited to see everyone that comes to Chicago. So if you see me, don't be a stranger. Say hi because I'm a total flake. And coming up, we've got Dreamin' in Color, Southeast Dreamin', Buckeye Dreamin'. Linda will be at Buckeye Dreamin'. Midwest Dreamin'. Ooh, it's coming up in July 16th, Santa Barbara and California, not Carolina, South California, Dreamin' in Newport Beach. Now, you see how packed that July schedule is. And we also are aware that the first July of next month is the 4th of July. So MVP Office Hours is taking July off. So we can go to the next slide, Squire.
All right.
So the next meeting is going to be the first Friday in August, and someone can keep me honest here and tell me what that date is. But we will be coming back the first week of August. Um, Before we get too far into this slide,
August 1st.
August 1st. Oh geez, that's gonna hit us right between the eyes.
Yep.
I want to make sure everyone knows that everyone is welcome at MVP Office Hours that has a Salesforce experience, Salesforce curiosity, Salesforce questions, Salesforce answers, Salesforce gap in their knowledge that they want to learn more about. That they just want to talk to folks about Salesforcey stuff. Everybody's welcome all the time. So everyone, Squire, you're silly. But we do ask that you post any links or resources in the chat. And if you have a question, post it in the chat and or raise your hand so that we can make sure we get you in line. And then remember, we're here to have fun and be professional and positive. We are recording, so let's keep things on the up and up so everyone keeps their jobs. And do not do not share any private or proprietary information here because we are recording. And under no circumstances, we are not transcribing or being recorded by AI tools. Please and thank you. All right.
And
Mention an MVP Office Hours. We're taking July off. So next meeting is August 1st. All right. Does anyone on the call have any questions?
Joy, are we not doing the third week this month?
The third week, no, we're not.
Okay.
Because we have some vacations planned among the staff of MVP Office. So we are not hosting a call in the third week, and there's a lot going on in June,
yeah.
especially just with everything. So
I tell you what, Joy, is it fair? Sometimes we get an influx of help.
we do.
If something were to happen for the 16th, would we put it back on, or do you just want to call it?
We can totally make a call the Monday before that, but generally speaking, we'll plan on the 1st of August.
Okay.
And if I have an emergency need to help you all with your questions on the third week, and if I have like some smart helpers like saying, "Well, come with me," because otherwise we're just going to Google stuff and push Einstein help to the limit.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. It's good stuff.
It is great stuff. It's great stuff. So, agent, and you're right. Yeah, totally Agent Force. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Because we didn't have anything pop up in the community. You're all just here to help.
Well, I can ask a question.
Please. And
All
Michael
right.
had something out too. So yeah,
All right.
let's
So
start.
we got a Todd and a Michael. Fantastic. Let's hear it, Todd.
All right, I had a project thrown at me.
As always, right?
Of
How it always
course,
goes.
they want it done in 6 weeks, which we've already told them won't happen.
Wow.
We do what they call virtual cover sessions, where a graphics designer works with a customer to design the cover of their yearbook,
Okay.
and they want to be able to schedule those. So something like Calendly, I've been looking at Salesforce Scheduler,
Mm-hmm.
different products, and I'm just wondering, what does the community use out there? Those are the I've been through Trailhead on Salesforce Scheduler, and it might be more than we need. I'm sure it would work, but I'm just looking, see what the rest of the community thinks.
When we looked, Calendly was like the gold standard, but I don't know if that's still true. It feels like that's the recurring tool that even Salesforce uses. So I don't know if that helps, but
Did you integrate it with Salesforce and then feed some of that back in for events or anything like that?
well, the roundabout way using Outlook and Next Best Action and Lightning Sync, like all the secondary sync tools, but not direct. So
Okay.
is the ask to so let me reverse it. So one of the challenges we have is that while it all ends up being like Salesforce data, the swivel chairing to get from Calendly or the email tool to Salesforce through the like everybody just really hated the multiple jumps, even though that's what they wanted. And so we actually ended up just kind of deciding that it was easier to do through email because that's what people wanted to do. So I mean, I think going to your question, is eventing in Salesforce critical? Like, is that the ask?
They would prefer it to be inside Salesforce where it's because that's where our sales reps are supposed to be living.
And would they be generating the Evite from Salesforce then too, or still using like a secondary tool, but then syncing it back?
It depends on what we choose.
Okay. But
I
they're
mean,
willing to do whatever it is.
yeah, if we were using Scheduler, then it would all be integrated and we could update stuff in Salesforce very easily.
Sure. Okay.
And the other consideration is cost.
Of course. Of course.
So there is a price point difference there.
All right.
So, all right. So you have some experience with Calendly then.
A little bit. I mean, we saw that when we were comparing notes, it was the one that kept bubbling up as like probably the one we would have gone with. Granted, I'm in financial services, so they don't care too much about cost. They're more about functionality. And then it came, like I said, it came down to the swivel chair of they still wanted to be able to work with Outlook and they wanted to work with Salesforce and they wanted to work with other tools. And I was like, well, it was just more disruptive to have another tool in the system. So
Right. And that's kind of where we're at too. They just don't want to, they don't want to have to jump outside to another app now.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Pat's
yeah,
got to find out
our
is
users
this-
don't care. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Our users don't care about price either until you tell them what it is.
Still they bill it. Pat, do you have input or you have a question for us?
I think Pat has a question after
Okay,
Michael.
got it.
So,
All right.
all right. Are you all set then, Todd? Because
I'm good. Thank you for the feedback.
Yeah,
I
in my
definitely would
past, I've
post
been
that.
with Calendly also, but we can post that. You please, Todd, post that up in the community group and then see if we have any other feedback besides who we've got on the call today.
Okay. Yeah, I headed that way this morning and got sidetracked.
I mean, it happens all the time.
And I have this sinking, or not sinking, I have this huge assumption that Mary will have an immediate answer. It seems like this is something she's solved multiple times. So, right?
Okay.
This is true. Mary's got a lot of varied experience.
So,
All right.
so I know you
Thank
don't
you.
want to add a separate app, but I know that one of the things that we're at least taking a cursory look at is bookings from Microsoft. I don't know what the integrations are for that, but we've looked at it and I've used it in a past life. So, and it does seem to be effective. It doesn't seem to be quite as slick as Calendly, but it's getting better. So take that for what it's worth.
That's actually one that popped up in my Gemini prompt response this morning when I was hunting again. So thank you.
And I do think it's super cheap. So that if it might be part of the regular Microsoft suite. I'm not 1,000% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure it's very inexpensive.
All right, thanks.
I like it. I like it. All right. All right. So, Michael, what do you got?
Hey, yeah, thank you. So we're just been also tasked with something, which is to do more with less. So I don't know if this is something anybody else has experienced, but one of the things that they're asking us, or that we're trying to do, is some additional user testing and then flow testing, because we were really using flows more than Apex at this point. And so yeah, I'm trying to find resources or kind of guideposts on where to either, well, both things, create tests, automated tests, or tests for my flows, and then also looking for a solution similar to Provar, but maybe not necessarily restricted to Provar, to do that kind of user testing or that kind of end-to-end process testing. So I'm just curious if anybody has any suggestions or thoughts on that.
I have lots of thoughts, but I want to go last.
You want to go last? Fine. I'll let you go last. Do you like to write code?
I mean, I don't. I'll say no because
Okay.
it's not good code. So
Right. Because you can always write an Apex test. Like, you can always do that. You just have to get comfortable with it before
Sure.
you do it.
Okay. I'm not afraid to
Um,
learn it. So that's yeah. So
Yeah.
happy to.
So that's that's your free option. Salesforce tests are out there. I don't know how much I like them. I have not had much success with them.
Okay.
And then besides Provar, so Gearset recently released functionality that does some flow testing. You might want to check out or at least ask for a demo of that. I don't have a lot of details, but I
Okay.
know they
Well, we have
added
Gear
that into
Set,
their suite.
so I can reach out to them as well. So, but thank you.
That's all I have, Squire. So now you get to fill in.
So okay, so I'm gonna put on my crooked hat and my goofy glasses. So one of the things I feel can be a real challenge, depending on what leadership you have, is that flow testing is different than software testing, right? And sometimes that mentality is, the word test is what they're screaming, but they haven't started to ask the question about what they need to, what you need to test, or why you need to test, how you need to test. And so I feel like some of the questions that need to be asked before you dive into something like a Provar or whatever is like, well, what is it that we're trying to test? And when you, and not like what types of tests, but why you're trying to test, because so much of what Flow does is self-validating, right? The platform does a lot of the work for us. If it saves, it's like, there's no like false checks, or there's no bad variable checks or anything like that. So I don't want to like say don't, but I definitely want to, my stance has always been, ask what you're testing and why you're testing it, and is the effort worth the outcome. Then flipping it across the other way, clearly tests are important for anything that's automation, especially when it's happening underneath the covers. People don't know what's going on. I think a well-written flow has plenty of faults and communications and notifications coming out of it to make sure that it tests itself. And then I added the link. There are built-in declarative testing tools for Flow in general. But all of this is just a lot of tools. But rather than hold up the toolbox, I would love to hear more conversations about why are we, is the what, this is juice worth the squeeze? Is that the word, the phrase I'm looking for, right? And just to make sure that there isn't a miss. And I think why I feel that way is for two reasons. So one, we had a huge initiative years and years ago to do like web usability testing in the platform. And they spent weeks and months building these automated tests and couldn't figure out why they're constantly failing. And it's because the testers didn't realize that because Salesforce is dynamic, the rules they had set for themselves were changing daily, weekly, monthly. A release would change all of their stuff. So like, they weren't asking the right questions early and getting the right people involved, or sometimes you write tests that by definition are intended to fail, but the flow doesn't know how to handle them because you've got that weird abstraction. So like a user experiences one thing, the test experiences something else. And sometimes you just have this weird juggling of what the heck are we trying to get from the outcome of these tests, and make sure that's what you're testing and not just going through the motions. I'm going to stop for a second. Linda, you've written infinite tests. So like, tell me I'm wrong, or tell me your opinion when you think about it programmatically versus declaratively, where there is a disconnect or where there isn't.
I mean, I think, well, I also try to do TDD, which makes it even more, like I know what I'm testing, or at least happy path, what I'm testing for. I might not know all the negative paths when I'm starting out. Because often, users don't tell you what they don't normally do.
Well, yes, that's true.
They don't follow their own instructions.
They don't, but they also don't tell you what it is that they don't follow. So sometimes you have to do some guesswork, or you wait till it fails and then do it.
Mhm.
I mean, honestly, a lot of it is, I kind of follow this framework of, this is what the data looks like when I go into the thing. This is what I expect it to look like when I'm done. If that doesn't cover my code, something's wrong in my code.
Yeah.
Like, because seriously, what else am I doing in the meantime? Did I had to do some intermediate changes to get there? Why? Because I shouldn't need to.
Right.
And if I did, then I made something too complex and I need to probably refactor to begin with.
I also feel like, especially now with the next release coming, what's even going to be even better is that there is value in like recording for perpetuity the debug logs of your manual testing of your flows, which is usually as good as any automated test when you're talking about the flow functionality, maybe not the dependencies. So now the new debug is going to give you a lot more visibility to the nodes and things, and so there might be value in just doing something new. Documentation for the sake of documentation is terrible, but sometimes that saves you the headache of, I know this worked and it hasn't changed. So now what are we testing? We're testing inputs. Okay, now I understand why we're testing. Is that a fault path? Is that a, what have you, right? And I don't know, one last thing is, I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but there are multiple test tooling in Flow depending on how it's initiating, record triggered versus screen flows versus what have you, and what the outputs look like, and they reverse them. Off the top of my head, I can't remember how it is. It's like one type of test, if it's a screen flow, it gives you a false positive, and one type of test, if you do it as a positive test, then it gives you an output. Like, it's this weird juggling of knowing what you're testing, why you're testing, and how those faults help you. So there's a lot there.
The only other thing I'll say is make sure you're testing as a user as well as yourself. You
Yeah,
always
sorry.
have elevated rights as an admin, and when your user goes in and can't do the things that you did and you're like, oh, or today's comment, I tested it, the developer, I tested it, worked for me. Well, yeah, but you're not a user.
Yeah, user acceptance testing is its own little monster, right? Versus
And I'm not saying making a user test. I mean, like, log in as a user,
Oh,
make
right.
sure it runs, and that you're not running into permissions issues.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know. It worked, Linda.
Thank you.
It did. It worked at some point last night, and all of a sudden, after we deployed it this morning, it didn't.
It worked as a system.
never
I
happened.
don't understand. The number of times I've heard that, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So before we go to Pat, I want to ask, I mean, are you hearing anything other than just we should test?
I think the biggest issue that we run into is we're a small team, right? There's just there's four of us doing kind of all the things, and what we're testing is kind of that from start to finish the process.
Mhm.
So part of it is the start to finish of the process, and that gets very repetitive whenever it's very cumbersome whenever we have a small release and we have to test, we have to do these 5 scenarios, and the 5 scenarios have umpteen steps and they result in a record doing something. And then in order to retest it, you have to like recreate all the previous steps to get to that record point and then do that thing. So that's where the part of like the automated Probar-esque kind of testing was coming in. And then on top of that, it was just a matter of how do I make sure that my flows are, what should I be considering when I'm building a flow? What should I be testing to look at so that, because when we're doing all those other things with like user testing, going in as a user and to making sure the automation is working, but it's that automation within the process itself that is the big hairy part that we're trying to resolve, or at least make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, totally get it.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I'll just close the door by saying that there is definitely nothing wrong, except that you have to write it, with writing automated Apex class based tests to test your flows. That's the right way to do it if you have an initiative or you're giving like compliance guidance or whatever that says you have to test whether you want to or not. I mean, the best way to do it is always with Apex, I think, because you have so many more controls as far as how you're going to do your assertions and what you can get out of it. It's just you're signing up someone to manage them, and then you have to also test your tests. Not really, but like someone's got to make sure that they're still functional tests and they haven't changed, and then your scope on work changes, and it just, I guess what I'm getting at is what I let off with was just sometimes the word test seems like we just got to test, and no one who's making that announcement is thinking about what that means for the future.
Can I get your perspective on that in terms of, like, when I think about a flow, if you're writing a flow that updates 3, 4, 5 records or one record and 3, 4, 5 objects, I've never really felt a need to test the DML pieces of that, because it's really just you're updating one record, or you're updating 5 record, or one record and 5 objects. That doesn't seem to me, as you said, Square, the juice in that context doesn't seem worth the squeeze. Sometimes I hear that, oh, we should test everything, and I'm not so sure that I agree with that, just on principle from that perspective. On the other hand, if you're writing a record triggered flow that's updating 4,000 records, it's probably worth it to go through and write an Apex class related test that's going to test that record triggered flow at that point, because you need to bulkify it and everything else. So it feels like there's room to say, hey, do we really need to test that? Do we need to test every DML statement? And I'm just not sure we do. I know that there's people who would strongly disagree with me on that, but I'm just not seeing it.
I think I'm going to say that you already said what I was about to say, which is, do we need to test it? Like, that's the $1,000 question. And my response would be, if I'm creating activities, I'm not as concerned as I am if I'm updating my parent account. And so even if it's a single update, I might build a fault flow just in case someone slides in a validation rule and I didn't know about it, or over perpetuity someone creates a duplicate rule that it won't save, and you don't know why, and all of a sudden a flow that you didn't actually touch fails. I think you need to make that decision on a one-by-one basis, and then be okay with the decision. But the decision is not yes, no. The decision is a risk assessment and an understanding of what you're giving up. So, I mean, you could just easily say, well, I'm not worried about 5,000 records, but maybe you should be. So have that conversation. I think that's where I would be, because I don't think I would ever say don't test, but I would definitely say, do you need to test?
Yeah, you guys.
Well, and it's really the amount of testing. Like, do I need to test before I push this live the first time? Probably. Do I need to test it every single time something happens? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm deploying stuff that doesn't even touch it. I don't need to test that right now.
Yep. I mean, I don't know if anybody's got an org that takes all day to run its tests for a deployment, but that can be a real bear.
Not anymore. I don't. I've been there.
Lucky.
That's why I was making that face.
Not
I'm down to 5 minutes right now or less.
Wow. Yeah, I'm jealous.
Help, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
absolutely,
Very-
absolutely. All right, Pat, what do you got?
I have another endless org question. We're looking for some backup software, and so ones that you guys would promote and ones that you would say, "Oh, forget that." And I am in the process of talking with vendors, so they can all, slip it over me, but still, just, if you have some that you would suggest and some you would say no. That's
See, I think
we have a
yeah.
Commerce Cloud site too that we need to back up. So,
Right.
and unfortunately, right now, we're doing that amount.
Yeah.
Not even running like the data export thing. Not that that helps you much.
No, we have our ERP integration is M4 Sightline, and we also have a partial sandbox. And yes, I am talking to them about getting a full sandbox. I've already broached that conversation. So I'm in Florida right now. My mom's moving, her house is sold. So, I'm helping with all that. Um, and my manager's off all next week and today, but he's already blessed it. And I probably know how much money I could spend on, you know, but no. And no, they're not even so. Today, I probably will do that data export.
That is that is like the very most basic thing that you could possibly do to
Yeah.
have something.
Yep.
And
I thought I started it a couple weeks ago, but I looked for that email, that flimsy
Mhm.
email they sent you, and I didn't send it in, see it in my email. So
right. So
probably went to spam and I deleted it.
well, yeah, make sure it's set up and going where you need it to go. But
Yeah.
with any software evaluation, like you need to see which vendors provide the services you need and like are really good at it and don't necessarily provide the services you don't need because you want to pay for what you need and not all the other extra stuff because there's a lot of choices out there and you've got some insight. Go for it.
Better ones than I have put in chat. Ignore the stuff in chat. Okay. So my recommendation is if you don't already have an enterprise architecture domain in your organization, defining an objective paradigm just so that everybody is measured in the same way is definitely something you want to do. You want to assess and weight your requirements to Joy's point. So I'm just augmenting and piling on what Joy has said. But defining that paradigm with the weight system will help define what path you move forward with, right? Things like budget, capabilities, flexibility. Is there synergies? Synergies with other systems that also may require backup that's not necessarily just limited to Salesforce. So there's a lot of different things and different ways you could take it. There's not a one size fits all, in my opinion. It's just the scenario or scenarios that you're trying to adjust. Is this something tactical that needs to be done specifically for the Salesforce org? We can do it quick and dirty. Or is this something more strategic that you need to look at an overall data enterprise kind of solution? So with that being said, defining your requirements, number one, defining that paradigm. Then you go and assess your vendors and making sure that you also include non-functional requirements because you are backing up your data. You need to understand where that data is going, right? You need to understand where that data is going to be stored. And especially if it's a cloud solution, what does that mean as far as making sure that they have the audit documentation and or international standards certifications that they may present to you. So definitely engage your info security team. That's
Okay.
And
what
then not just back up how much they store when all that, how do they restore?
The ease of
Because
restoration for sure, Linda. Yeah.
we had a tool that literally its restore process went through and turned off all your automations first. Yeah. And we killed that one really fast and said, we're not using that. We can't continue using that. We need something else.
So
think
it didn't
that'll be
turn them
Linda.
all back on at the end?
Oh, it probably does, but for one record, it took 17 hours because it had to turn off every automation first, even ones it didn't touch, because that's what was written into the software. So
Wow.
yes, make sure you understand how it works for that part. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And you have no idea.
That's
And literally we
sneaky.
had it
That's
because that's what they
sneaky.
used for all the other systems at the company, and it worked fine for them. But well, this is what Salesforce told us we're supposed to do. Well, that's nice.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of value in what I was just saying, because so often those vendors show up with their menu of cool features. And going back to what we were just talking about with Michael, like when you say we need a backup solution sponsor, is it just for compliance purposes? Do we need to be able to restore? Are you trying to create a warehouse? Like that list of things gets really big real fast with something as small as the words backup solution. So knowing that ahead of time will help you drive to what the best value is. It might be monthly extracts and it won't cost you anything, but it's probably not. And I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and say we went with Own. It was the gold standard. It's why Salesforce bought it. It does lots of cool stuff with lots of different licensing levels based on user, and so that was the one that we went with.
We're using Own now. I've also used GearSet. It has a backup solution as well. I've also done homegrown, but using a tool that got me to back it up into maybe an on-prem or cloud-based SQL server.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
using PocketGen for a while there, and it was we were calling it our backup, but it really wasn't. It was more like an archive, right? You couldn't restore from it. You had to like do manual work. So, but those are features that are available too, and they have multi-use versus just a backup system.
I got DBAMP to the point where I can restore too.
Nice.
Another thing along with that, probably the next thing after the full sandbox and the backup are deployment tools. I'm kind of being not nebulous, but I've been keeping my knowledge of the org kind of low so that I can talk to everybody with a clean face and not already know what happens so that they can tell me. And when I start taking away their delete privileges, they already know my smiling face. Okay.
they're still gonna curse you, Pat. You know that.
Yes, I know that, but they know me then, it'll be 2 months, 3 months. So, delete privileges, and I haven't even told them, I haven't even hinted to it that delete privileges are going away in the beginning of the third quarter. So, but so I haven't built anything in the org. I really haven't done anything, and I just kind of looked around a little, but since we have that Commerce Cloud storefront, and we have a couple other coders, dev people, they're always building some stuff, and we only have a partial sandbox. I'm pretty sure and that they're doing it in production. I haven't just come out and said, "Are you guys doing this in production?"
I'll say it.
Yeah.
I'll say it. Pat, I'll say it. I'll come to you. I'll come to the call. I'll be like, are you kidding me? What are you doing? You can't do that
Well,
in production.
I'll be back in the office late next week, and then my manager will be back the next week. But probably late next week when I go in, I'll say, "Are you guys doing this in production?"
That's so 2003. Knock it off.
Exactly. And we already just had an incident where our partial sandbox on Wednesday disappeared.
I'm sorry, what?
And
Like you couldn't find it from production setup, or you couldn't log into it?
yes, it got deleted. and or it disappeared because my manager teams me and go, "Hey, did you delete the partial sandbox?" I'm like, "No, what are you talking about? I was just in it yesterday."
So
Anyway,
curious.
we got an explanation from Salesforce, and they did restore it, but that'll probably be the last time because that's the second time it has disappeared. Like, and
What did wait. What did they say was the
Like,
reason?
how did it disappear? I mean,
okay,
someone clicked something, whether it was on your
The
side
glasses
or
are
on the
coming
other
on, so this is a
side.
good
Yes, I
story.
yes.
know.
Okay. Let me see
Just got to
here.
do the nose push
Yeah,
like
I
really
know.
quick.
Um,
I hear so much better when I put my glasses on. No, I'm kidding.
I see a lot better when I turn down the radio.
This is also true.
upon further investigation, we discovered that was associated with the deletion of the sandbox. This appears to have been an unintended action. It seems the deletion was triggered by a REST API call from an external connected app, which included a delete method targeting the sandbox info. This action placed the sandbox into a pending delete status. Fortunately, we were able to recover it.
What installed app has that access?
Yeah.
Probably that stupid Sightline N4.
Whoa.
N4 Sightline. Okay. So,
Can you drop the link in the chat, please?
yeah, right.
Oh
So
my
you can just say
goodness.
never install this in your app org ever.
Wow.
I mean, that's like the
Wow.
classic backdoor security flaw that like
That's
operating systems get exposed. That's crazy.
First off, I don't even have a login to this site N4 Sightline or ERP. I think my manager thinks, hey, it might be a little much now because I'm not learning that yet. Okay. But number two, he's off for the next 6 or so days. I forwarded this email to him
dang.
and said, hey, read this. I'm sure he got the email from Salesforce, but
But you're
I'm
looking for a backup tool because the ERP is
no,
deleting
It was
sandboxes?
before that. It was before that because they don't. There's nothing being done. Okay,
Oh wow,
so
that's a lot.
of course we back up all our systems, Microsoft and all that, but it's not backing up, everything in Salesforce. So um, so anyway, there will be a big old post-it note on in my office about this email. And when he comes back, I'm not reaching out to him. It's not that important anymore. But when he comes back, and I know he's not going to work on vacation. I don't think so. Because he said, hey, I'll be out and I'll be looking at Teams, but it'll probably be on a delayed response. And I'm pretty much one that I don't reach out to you on your vacation or PTO unless there's something that like you wanted to buy my car and I sold it to somebody else. Hey,
Things are on fire. Yeah, that kind
yeah,
of
exactly. Hey, on my second week, I was there after 5 o'clock on a Friday and I kind of got kicked out.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
good.
here's the
I'm
deal with this
glad.
company. The engineers lock up at the end of the day and turn the alarm on, and they stay maybe to 6. I don't know because I don't test it because I live 35, 40 minutes from the office, and at 3:55, I'm packing up to go home.
Whew.
So
Whew.
they
Well,
do
Pat,
value your work-life balance. So
I'm really
it's not,
glad.
I'm just gonna have maybe I should put a big thing on its monitor and envelope and inside say, don't do this again.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Like a big welcome back
Or
note.
print out the email, highlight that this is what you were doing had in it, and don't do it again. Okay.
Oops, let's not.
Right. So that's why, yeah. So he tested that in the partial sandbox, but I still think they're doing other stuff in production.
Well, so Pat,
The
I
audit
do-
log,
I
the
wanna-
audit log, the audit log, the audit log, the audit log. Pull that every month
Okay.
and more
heck, every
frequent.
week.
I was every like more frequently as needed, but it exports 6 months of nonsense. I will say, and
Just to get better context, you said they are doing these things in the sandbox, and you suspect that they're also doing funky business in production. So who's they?
We have two other developers in our group, and
naughty.
it is not, they don't know best practices.
No, I would imagine not.
Okay, they are not Salesforce people,
Pat,
as in they
Pat,
don't
let
have
me
any
come to the meeting. Let me
certification.
come to the
That's
meeting.
like admin 101.
Let me
That you
come to
take
the
the
meeting.
keys away from those that cannot drive, okay?
They deploy changes to production. They do not make changes in production.
Exactly,
it.
but I'm not a coder, so how do you deploy changes to production if you're not using
If they're developers, they will know how to deploy changes.
if you're not using a deployment tool or change sets?
Mhm.
Then
I'm
they're
pretty
doing
sure
it
that-
directly in production.
Well, no, because some code cannot be done directly in production, but they
Right.
might be using the command line and pushing,
Yes.
especially if they're developing in VS Code.
Yes,
Um,
yes. I have seen the command line. Like I
will
said,
help
I'm
you-
not a coder.
Linda will help you build the fence. Linda will help you build the
I
fence.
mean, I would say you need to find out where they're living right now. I mean, you have
Right.
to outright ask, how are you getting stuff in production? Make the
Yes.
assumption that they're not doing it right in production to begin with, and ask them. Let them tell you they're doing it right in production. Let them bury themselves. Thank you.
I mean, I'll
is
say
available
Let
this:
them
they are
incriminate
very.
themselves.
They are not your typical Salesforce developers, as in,
Are they general?
I'm not doing
developers?
anything wrong. The people are very nice at this company. I'm telling you.
They're,
It's
they're
okay,
not. They're not
and it's
doing
fine.
it wrong.
But
They're just not
I would
following
just
best
say, hey,
practices.
can
They
you
have
show
good
me?
intentions, I'm
Show
sure.
me how you're getting stuff to production today, how you're getting your development done and the things live.
Correct.
Ask, and then if they show you that they're doing it right in production, do you know that that's a deployable thing, that you could do that in the partial sandbox and push it with change sets, or, via other tools, and that's really a better practice. So it's really kind of, yeah, they might not quite be there, depending on how long they were doing development. If they were ever doing development anywhere else, they may or may not have been exposed to DevOps practices.
I know.
You should have full control to know how they're even getting in, and even come at it from a risk and compliance. Just say our developers don't need production access, so we're going to shut down those licenses.
Right.
We'll close them sandbox. I mean, like it doesn't have to be about whether they should or shouldn't or are or aren't. It can just be about, if you want to ensure that nothing gets broken, we should do it this way. Oh, you want to have a better way to deploy? We're going to use Salesforce DevOps or GearSet or Capado or whatever everybody wants. Like, you can come at this very architecturally sound without being accusatory or like turning it into like a civil war of conversation. It's just let's just change what we're doing for a variety of reasons.
Oh yeah, I understand that, but okay. I mean, I'm just kind of moseying along. You guys don't really know. You guys don't really know me, okay? I can slam the hammer down, all right? And
Yeah,
Pat,
but you're just
Pat,
trying to
we
assess
do
the
know.
current state, so you can put
Right.
together that here's where we're at today.
Yeah.
Here's the report. This is all the things that I'm going to fix and make bright and shiny and well oiled.
Right.
And you can even hold up
I-
standard Salesforce like lifecycle documentation to help sell it. It's like, it's not just Pat being difficult here. We're talking about platform best practices, and
Right.
what you're doing is not what you should be doing. And here's my papers to suggest otherwise, right? Like, you can really make it be about the health of the platform, not about your opinion.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend a postmortem retrospective, and we are clear in intent in defining those engagement rules so no one takes offense. That doesn't mean that people aren't going to get uncomfortable, because obviously some hit the fan when this happened. And so I think defining the engagement rule together and making sure that there's positive outcomes, positive intent to try to, again, understand what had happened and how to then plug those holes. Otherwise, like I said, build a fence, a moat, add a tower, add a dragon, and some sharks in that moat, and you should be okay.
I will.
We have confidence in you, Pat.
Yeah.
I know. Like I said, you guys don't know me. I can be very, very
I've seen some of
firm
that
handed.
sass when we first met.
I was gonna say, do you think we haven't? Come on, Pat. Come on.
I've seen the
Not
sass.
not everybody on the call has met you, but I have.
Don't test the
I
patience
have.
of a patient person.
I'm not really patient either, though. Okay.
Yeah, I've been tested maybe twice, and
Fantastic.
don't do it.
Pat,
But
you-
I've learned.
Yeah,
I've
does that get you
learned to
started,
be,
Pat?
huh?
Does that get you started?
Oh yeah.
All right.
You know, I'm not really
fantastic.
a patient person, but I've learned to be patient. You know, I'm a lot
Mhm.
older than you guys think, so age is
25. You look
wisdom.
great. Yeah.
Pat, you led off with the DevOps question though. Did we get that answered, or are you more worried about the other stuff?
Well, right now I'm worried about the backing up, but we're gonna next be going into some DevOps stuff.
So-
You know, because I'm not using change sets.
Okay.
But Pat, as you're investigating the backup stuff, understand whether the vendors you're talking to have a DevOps solution and what that
Right.
looks like as well.
Yeah.
Because some of them do, like, you know,
Yes,
GearSet
yes.
definitely has both and probably has more DevOps than backup. But,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
backup is just another part of your DevOps solution, actually.
Yeah. I did talk to GearSet today. I'm talking to a bunch of them. So, and hey,
We're real happy with Salesforce DevOps, and it's free. So if
Right.
that's an option, take a look at it.
is that like I keep looking for that. Is that
The DevOps Center?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that wait, but is it included in all versions of Salesforce?
We're enterprise.
Okay.
It's just so, but we do really need to have that Commerce Cloud be able to be backed up, because I asked my manager, well, how long do you think it would take to rebuild Commerce Cloud? If, you know, oh, about 3 weeks. So, you know, if it's 3, that means 6.
Yeah.
You might just double it.
Well, and that's more your metadata that on that side. So really having, you know, a source control system, version control system is going to become important.
And then when
Linda, you just keep giving me more stuff to talk
know.
about, to add.
again,
Uh,
back when you first started this role, I think one of the things I said to you was people, processes, and systems. So I still go back to that credo when assessing anything, especially new org. And so when you have your inventory of things, which hopefully you have started a list, but it looks like the list keeps piling, you have to be able to assess what is priority, because it sounds like you are being faced to address a lot of different things, and there's only 24 hours usable hours every single day, and we want to make sure that they respect the work-life balance, but we want to make sure that you're set up for success, to make sure that those expectations are then set accordingly. So with that being said, what are they trying to do when you say redo Commerce Cloud? Is that from a business side, or is that a tech debt side, restructuring a new product catalog? Like, why are we redoing your commerce site?
No. I said, if I asked my manager, if what happens if Commerce Cloud got screwed up, if it got, if it went down, if it got deleted or something, you know, since we don't back up anything. So how long would it take if we had to re-engage it?
Start from scratch.
Recreate it.
Right.
Yes. Start from scratch.
That would
So
be
he said 3 weeks.
painful.
So I took that to mean 6 weeks.
3 weeks to rebuild Commerce Cloud? Wow, that's amazing. Gotta meet these people.
I'd like whatever happy drugs they're on, please.
I mean, because it sounds like they don't really have a backup solution or any deployment tools, and so I'm really curious about how this would take 3 weeks.
No, and we're doing things in prod and just
Yeah,
deleting
yeah.
sandboxes.
So Pat, you can just share this recording, and all of our reactions will speak for themselves.
I'm not sharing this recording. Hey, this is my safe place. They don't need to, if they come across it some way down the line, that's fine. But hey, I might be fired if I share
No,
this
you're not gonna get
recording.
fired. You're
You
not gonna
know?
get fired. You haven't shared anything specific.
Yeah, but I've gone.
Well, yes, but we all make that face at work. It's
Oh,
just a matter of,
that's
you know,
that's just
how
my
to-
standard face.
I'm
I
not
mean,
allowed to play poker.
Anne's
so
definitely been making it the whole time.
it's all good.
No, seriously, how many times have I been like,
I already know it's like you're not doing what? That
Mhm.
was my first job that was part of my first job when I lived when I worked at Lessonly. We did the data export. Yeah, that's clunky, but at least I did it every week, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, for
So,
sure, for sure.
you know, that was
Yeah.
manual, but we're not even doing that.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna get there. That's why they hired you.
I
And
know.
so it is
I
not
know.
it is not an overnight process. It is not like the first month process is not the first. I mean, the first quarter is a lot at
Yeah.
anywhere you go. And we're very excited for you.
And and that's why I haven't taken away delete privileges, okay? Yet. I want them to get to know me. Okay?
just
Okay.
And
blame
I'm
it on the
coming from a
developers.
sound, huh?
Just blame it on the developers.
Yeah.
Just, you know, whatever that package was that like deleted the sandbox, also deleted data. It's okay.
Yes.
It,
Yes.
it deleted your delete
probably is.
privileges.
Like,
Huh?
how did you-
It probably is deleting data.
Oh, Linda, shh.
Just
Don't
They
give
don't
any
know.
ideas. They
They
can
don't
hear
know. They
you.
don't know. They
Shh.
don't know. Shh.
Okay, so Pat, you're set up for success for the next
Yes.
couple weeks.
Oh,
Do you have any other
I'm
questions?
fine now. I mean, I don't have any choice. You know, I'm all tied up with getting all this best practices in place.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's step one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Do we have any other questions today? Because we are down to like 8 minutes.
I'm late. I have a question as
Yeah.
always. I'm kind of new here, but
Hi, Annie. We're
okay.
glad you're here.
So I have a scenario where I've got people team selling multiple products on one opportunity. When one of those closes, I need to move that opportunity to a different account. A new account number needs to be created to support integrations with other systems. There doesn't seem to be a way to move opportunity products from one to the other, even though there's a field that has the opportunity on the product. Has anyone seen anything
I-
like this?
I missed something, I think. You said they're selling multiple products on a single opportunity and teams are selling them. And so if they close one of the products, not all of the products, you need to like separate the opportunity, split it. Okay.
I'm assuming, is the opportunity on the same account?
A new account. So I've been selling to the same company for 20 years, but all of a sudden I'm going to sell them a new product. If I close them on the new product, I actually need to create a whole new account number for them and move that product from one opportunity to the other.
So it sounds like you need to like split the opportunity into like two pieces. Like, I don't need the combo meal anymore. I want a la carte.
Correct. I need to split it and reallocate it to a new account.
A new account or a new opportunity?
New account, because I have to, every one of our operating systems has to have its own respective account, but I'm not going to create that account if I haven't closed the business yet. So it's like,
Okay. One of the ways that like Salesforce is kind of set up out of the box, right, is like when you create an account, you can have different statuses, right? Like a new status perhaps, and maybe a customer status, or maybe a former
Active
customer,
or inactive?
active, inactive. There's like 100 different ways you can set that up, right? I do recommend having an account when you're selling to them. If you think you can get money from a customer, they should have an account, right? Like when they are no longer just like someone who has like shown interest in your company, that if you think they could possibly buy your product, they can be an account in your system.
right.
And
So, so say this is a current customer that I have been selling. We're in the logistics space. I've been selling them truckload for the past 20 years. They're an account for us. And I'm going to see about maybe selling them ocean services, which would require a completely separate account. I'm not going to do
Okay.
that unless I've
so
closed
it's
on
like
that.
it's like ABC Trucking and ABC Ocean, for instance. Okay, so you've got like two divisions essentially of the
Same
same
parent account, though.
and then you could have a parent account over them, right? And so when you're selling them the combo meal, it's maybe tied to the ABC company, but when you split this into a la carte, you can clone the opportunity and then dump the unneeded products is one way to do that. And then move forward with the one that is the ready to buy. And then the other one can kind of sit and continue on its way. And then you could have the child accounts and whatnot.
So I can clone the opportunity and then purge the products that
And
don't matter anymore.
So you can clone it. I think clone with products, is that still a thing? Someone keep me honest here. It's been a minute. Clone with products. And so you're like, all right, they only want the French fries. So we're going to sell them the French fries on this opportunity, closed one, yay. And then we're going to take the French fries off the primary opportunity and let that ride until I figure out like what.
And
kind of
then
a la
you
carte
can
menu I
reparent
want.
that opportunity to the new
To the
company.
ocean. ABC
to the ocean.
And when you say do all this, that can all be done with flows, with
that
kind of stuff?
Yeah, you can actually do that with.
You want to ask questions you may not want the answers to. I don't know.
I mean, this is potentially a great opportunity for ScreenFlow, because if your sales team or salesperson is going to do it, they may say, okay, we're ready to close this thing, and then you say, okay, here's the account and the opportunities. Present them with the information and say which product or which line item is it, and they're going to select it to this line item and then the next thing and then the next thing, and you kind of gather that information. Now you're going to go split your, build your new account or build your child account, parent child it within your automation, within your ScreenFlow, create that opportunity, create that line item that they selected, and then on the back end of that, clear out the old line item that's no longer part of that combo meal, and then let the flow kind of build the rest of it out. So it's one of the nice things that I've run into with the flows is letting the users do the stuff that I control what they're doing, or what the path that they end up going down using ScreenFlow and getting that information. And so this sounds like potential win for that, rather than having you kind of make a lot of assumptions about what's the product that's being closed, and you as the admin having to write a bunch of like decisions and a bunch of stuff in your flows. Just say like, let's give me the information, and then I can build this record for you based on the information gathered. So I don't know if that helps you, but flows would definitely be, I think,
and
do it all.
I'm gonna share my screen real quick if I could, because then I think it might. I think I'm tracking what you're saying.
Well, we're recording, so you can catch this later. But yes.
Okay, so this is just a test file. I've got byproduct whether I was awarded it or lost it. So if I said awarded, maybe the next logical screen question would be, is a new account needed? Stuff like that. And then it would,
yeah, definitely think about or consider, mapping out what are the steps that need to take place, and then which of those steps would need some sort of user input or potentially new user input, and then you would build the ScreenFlow elements for that.
Got it.
And that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you map out the entire, like, okay, this is the problem we have with testing, right? We have this entire like huge business process. We have all that in these flow charts, and then you kind of go through. Okay, well, this piece I can ask the person for that information. I can ask the person for that information. I can get all that up front. I can go forth and do all these other things after the fact, and after I gather, and then it just kind of runs in the background. And it runs.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I love
that, Michael, too, because I think those flowcharts, sometimes if you also come at them, like, I don't get to say anything that's Salesforce centric while I build that. It really changes how to think about it. And then you can then take that second iteration of like, okay, what is that in Salesforce now? So sometimes people get caught up in well, I click this button or I do this thing. Like, no. You're collecting data, you're storing information, you're converting, you're like, that changes how you build that process. So.
Yeah, it also shines a light on the process, and you can find where the process might be broken or could be optimized, or even if you take this piece and put it over here instead of having it over there, it makes a huge difference in how the user experiences it, and then it also makes a huge difference in how you build it, how you can build it. So
yeah, I mean, how many times, one last comment there and then we can drop, how many times have you built a process where the problem wasn't the process, it was at the input or the output end? But if you don't understand that whole end to end, that SIPOC, you're not solving the actual problem. You're kind of mired in the middle of it. And so love hearing that. So
I'm gonna rewind one bit also. the price book, you might have an ocean price book and a trucking price book, that those products are different. So those opportunities aren't on the same, or those products are not on the same opportunity. So they would have to like create a specific opportunity record type for the ocean products, a specific opportunity record type for the, and select the price books specifically based on what they're, what they're selling. So from the beginning, you wouldn't be commingling things that you would have to split out. So catch
Okay.
it before it's a combo meal. Like, we aren't selling fish and chips. Like, it is not
Well,
surf
and that's
turf.
kind of anathema to the goal is
Mhm.
to sell everything in one person who does it. Let's not create a bunch of new
Yep.
things for them. Let's just have them sell the world, and then we'll figure it out after the fact once they actually win it where it needs to go. So
Yeah.
that's my challenge.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways, and we've got to go, but there's so many different ways to do this. And so think about when the information's coming in, what the requirements are, and then, Michael, your screen flow, I'm just about like, I got really excited. So Andy, if you've got questions, we have the recording, we'll have it posted in the next week or so you can kind of review what we all spewed at you. But also post in the community if you have any other
Okay.
questions. We're
Yep.
happy to help.
Thank you.
All right, friends, happy Friday. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next month at this August 1st. Unless, of course, we get lots of questions, and then we'll pull
Yeah,
them in.
let's double check that, Joy. I think we've got some dates mixed up. So let's you and I connect. But we'll see everybody real soon.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Al.
Is that everybody? Yeah, that's and recording stopped.